What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, co-coach of your Chicago Chika Dancers, and with me is my co-coach, Mr. Aaron 2420.
Yo, what's going on, guys? You got your boy Aaron for 20 here. If you guys somehow thought that I am responsible for this name, you actually have to blame Matt. Matt came up with a better team name than I could have ever came up with in a million years. So shout out to Matt for this.
That's right. For once, I'm the bigger weeb.
Yes, it's very disheartening. But yeah. So
one thing we do have to make clear though about this is, if you guys missed a video that went up yesterday on Aaron's channel, then you guys have to go back and check that out. It is the creation of our beautiful logo.
Yes.
And honestly, it's fantastic. Aaron went all in on Photoshop. We got on call and did it together, and there is no foot. Right?
There is no foot. There's 0 feet. I am disgusted by feet. If anyone says there's a foot, I'm blocking you. Simple as that.
There are no feet. That's right.
Yes.
Okay. This is our draft analysis. If you guys didn't know, we have a pretty ridiculous team. I believe there was 8 teams in the league, 2 coaches per team. So all the teams are pretty strong, but we have an exceptionally strong one because Aaron is a god at Scriblio.
Yes. Basically, the way that the draft order was decided was we played Scriblio and Call, 1 captain per team, and teams that weren't around had a representative to fill in for them. I ended up taking the lead by over 3,000 points, which, to put in perspective, when I had like nearly 1,600 points and the runner-up had like 12,900, it wasn't a contest. By like round 4, I already knew I was getting first pick. So Matt and I already started talking like halfway through the game, and I was like, "Hey Matt, what do you want to do first pick?" And I said, you know, there's obviously Melmetal we can grab, just big elephant in the room. And then we started like actually talking. You know, we were like, "Do we really want to get Melmetal?" And then 5 seconds later, we were like, "Yeah, okay, we're gonna get Melmetal."
Yeah, look, this mod is absolutely broken. You guys can see it on your screen. And by the way, look how beautiful that Melmetal looks. So huge shout out to Aaron, by the way, for doing a texture sprite on every single one of our mons. They look absolutely incredible. He does that for all the videos on his channel, so make sure to go and check him out for that. As well as just because Aaron is one of the most wholesome and best guys in the community. Without him, there probably wouldn't be a Wi-Fi scene for Gen 8, and that's just being honest, factual. So make sure to go and subscribe to him. If he gets to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this lockdown, he's going to be doing a Sword and Shield randomizer with texture sprite. So make sure to go
I forgot about that. Yeah, I made a whole list of all 200 Pokemon I'm going to be doing. So, yeah, that'll be an endeavor for sure. But we're here, though. First pick, Melmetal. This should be a pretty self-explanatory first pick.
Of course.
Like, if you've played, you know, a single game of Pokemon and you like have ever opened up Team Builder in Gen 8, you know what this mod does. It's kind of absurd. The fact that it was allowed, at the very least in the Wi-Fi format, I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing. It's probably a bad thing, but hey, we're here to use it before we lose it. That's
Absolutely.
pretty much it.
Look, this mon, sorry for interrupting, but this mon has really very few weaknesses, and it provides a team with a lot more than its stats would say it does.
Yeah.
Just having it on a team is such a huge problem. It's such a huge roadblock for our opponents to think of. And yeah, there may be a bit of tiny new toy syndrome, but doesn't matter. Melmetal is absolutely busted.
There just weren't many better picks, or at least many picks on par.
What do you think pairs well with Melmetal? What do you think some of its strengths are that we can kind of capitalize off of, and what do you think some of the weaknesses are that we need to cover for it?
So the strengths are its strength. To be honest, I mean 143 physical attack. It's a lot. At level 1, it might not look like it on your screen, but it is a lot at level 100. Its Fizz Def is also really good. So getting something that can really help with Spidef, probably some like pre-setup Pokemon as well, so this thing can just come in and click buttons. Because especially for like special setup threats, definitely a bit of an issue. T-Wave support is always really nice for this, so I could just flinch everything with Double Iron Bash. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean it can T-Wave itself, to be fair, but not having to click T-Wave is always a good thing. So that sort of gets into our next 2 picks. Since we did a first pick, we had Wheel, so these were both picked at the same time. Let's go with Clefable first. So it's first one pops up on the screen.
Clefable is first of all, Fairy Dragon Steel Cores. Everyone talks about them, how great they are, but just in general, these 2 Pokemon are absolutely phenomenal on their own, and then pairing with an entire team. Clef has amazing abilities. Magikarp, Unaware are 2 phenomenal abilities that can really help out in different situations. It's a really good setup mon. It can stop setup. It can set up your hazards. It can pass around status for your opponents. It just is one of the biggest pains in the ass, even though its stats don't look that terrific.
Yeah. In terms of Clefable, I originally told Matt that I wanted Togekiss, but for some reason Togekiss went before Clefable. Obviously, I mean, Togekiss is still a really good mon, and I think the team that got Togekiss ended up actually finishing really well in terms of draft, in terms of just how it was rounded out. But, I mean, I'll take Clefable. I genuinely told Matt, I think that we're going to have to settle for Togekiss, but I'm perfectly fine with that because it's obviously ground immunity. But we got Clefable instead, which is just so much stupider on this team. The T-Wave support, the setup immunity through Unaware, we can, if we need to, get around Toxic Stall, or even just switch this thing in on Will-O-Wisp Mon, so we don't need to take it with Magic Guard. It's just such a stupid Pokemon. It's the first rocker on the team. Offensive Fairy with Life Orb, it's a pretty good offensive Mon this generation, to be honest. Great coverage, because it used to be a normal type. It's just such a good Pokemon. And the fact that we got it round 2 through Wheel was so stupid.
Absolutely. This could have easily been, like, for us, a round 3 Pokemon, but we got it round 2 at the end of it, which is amazing. If you have a chance to grab Clef, it's definitely, in my opinion, a round 1 Mon, even
For
now.
sure.
Probably back end of round 1, but still phenomenal.
I 100% agree. So we got Clef, and we mentioned as well the other thing besides a good setup resistance was stuff obviously defensively pair with it. So in this case, our next pick was fire resistance. On Clef is our fighting resistance as well, which is great. So we already started to build out those weaknesses. But on top of this, our third pick is also a really nice special wall, that being Milotic. So
Yes.
Milotic here, personally one of my favorite designs. In terms of what it offers, though, it's a really nice specially defensive water, which is actually really good defensively paired with Melmetal, because while Melmetal can't recover itself with Cleft Wish Pass, Milotic itself can recover, so it's not going to be dependent on Cleft support. It, if we need to, can run Marvel Scale Flame Orb, so it's obviously really good for checking Fizz Def, but usually this thing on top of Melmetal can pretty in tandem check most things with Spidef Milotic, Fizz Def Melmetal, or even just offensive variants on both, because neither are really that passive for walls, which is really good, to be honest.
And the pairing of these three mons is fantastic. One of the things that Milotic has to really be afraid of is those grass and electric types. And at least at this point, our first two mons don't really care too much about those. And we still have another, 8 mons to build through.
Yeah.
Milotic is one of the most problematic Pokemon for people to deal with if they don't have the necessary tools. It can shut down so many options because of haze, just its natural bulk. Unless you have like Mold Breaker or something, you're really not getting by Marvel Scale without a super effective hit or like a band or something. It takes a lot of prep to beat a really good bulky Milotic, and it gets a Dragon Dance and Coil. So there's setup options there too, and competitive is a thing. If we ever go up against a Webs team, we can definitely run that and scare our opponents.
Yeah, or even just an Intimidate set as well, if we're trying to create an Intimidator. Like, we have an Intimidator later on, so obviously that's one less in the pool, but if, let's say, we were to fight something such as an Incineroar or a Hitmontop, we can obviously run a competitive set and get around those, because we're not going to care about Intimidate, and we're just going to get +2 special attack to hit both with. So
Exactly.
definitely a really
People are
good
going to
Fire
want.
Mon.
Yeah, people are going to want their Intimidate as well to deal with Melmetal. Like Rocky Helmet Intimidate is going to be something that I imagine we see quite often.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So in general, this just really pairs well in tandem with Melmetal. Next up on our team, we had the round 4 and 5 wheel. We got Toxtricity. So Toxtricity is great because obviously this does help take up T-Spikes for Milotic, for example, with the Grounded Poison. On top of also for when we run Unaware Clef. This is obviously really important because if Milotic wants to run a Flame Orb set and we get full Toxic, helps us not get stalled out with full Toxic. It's also really nice initiative, which we did lack at first, other than Teleport Clef. This was really all we had. It's a really nice special mon, especially with the Punk Rock ability. It can really break through a team with Boom Burst.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, I mean, it hits harder than Stab Overdrive, so it will run through teams. It's pretty nice speed tier as well, with 75 speed. It's between the Milotic and Clef gap, and we can always shift gear to set up speed with this, so it always helps.
One thing we do have to be aware of when we run Toxtricity, though, is that 4 times weakness to ground. We now have 2 mons that are weak to it and 2 mons that are some of our bulkier mons that don't even resist. So we have to be careful with that. We're starting to build that kind of weakness, but it's something we can definitely patch up later on in the draft. Toxtricity puts on so much pressure on our opponent's teams, and I feel like there was also maybe a little bit of new toy syndrome for us, at least. Using Toxtricity, it was one of the best experiences for me in my playthrough of Sword and Shield, and I definitely want to give it a shot before it was too long.
Yeah. I think in general, just the fact that this can still, even mons that would classically on ladder check Toxtricity, can still definitely get around those in draft with stuff like Snarl for ghost types, especially for ghost types that would also resist electric, like Dragapult, for example. So it definitely does have counterplay even to its normal switch-ins. So that's obviously really good for us to take advantage of. It's really just offensive grounds that kind of give our team issues at the moment. But we do definitely patch up around that later on.
I just want to say that throat spray is an amazing item that's practically tailor made for toxicity. So definitely expect that to be coming at some point.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be really free for us. Next up on the same wheel, we got ourselves Incineroar. So as mentioned earlier, we decided to get an Intimidate mon on the roster, and that happened to be Incineroar. Now, one of the best things about Incineroar this generation is the fact that Parting Shot is added to his move pool. So we do have even better initiative than U-Turn, because Parting Shot will go through stuff like King Shield. I don't think Aegislash was actually allowed, but if it was, we can King Shield through it. Or even just any non-protect or detect sort of protect, stuff like Crafty Shield, of course, the Klefki gets. I believe we can get around that. I know at least Spiky Shield we can definitely go through. So that in general is really good to get around most protect variants. On top of also still just pivoting out in general, Parting Shot is a pretty no-risk option other than against Magic Bounce users. So that does obviously help us a lot with just getting initiative into Melmetal while still taking the hits better. It's a slow pivot as well, so we can even just chew a hit with Incineroar before doing so. The fire typing is really nice to start pressuring grasses for Milotic, on top of also the dark typing to break psychics, because their team didn't really break psychic right now. While Melmetal doesn't mind them, obviously Toxicity does a lot, so that is really good with Incineroar's typing just defensively.
This mon is incredibly bulky at the same time. Like the 95 HP and then 90 in both defenses with Intimidates. The fact that it's a starter means it's incredibly well rounded. It has access to tons of great coverage options, honestly. Like you have your fire and dark moves, but there's also a really huge option for fighting type coverage as well, which is incredible. Just that type of coverage on a Pokemon like Incineroar is fantastic because people might want to bring their steel type on it, close combat, drain punch, whatever the case may be. It makes an amazing assault vest mon just because of that natural bulk. And honestly, Intimidate pairs really well, and Will-O-Wisp for that fact, it pairs really well with our current set of 4 because lowering that attack stat of our opponents, especially their ground types, is going to be absolutely huge for us.
Yes. One thing I will say though is that people probably won't be bringing their steel types on this because it is fire type at the end of the day. But regardless, it does help with a lot of the physical offense that would otherwise maybe wall Melmetal or maybe pressured stuff like Clefable or Toxicity or stuff like that.
I don't know why I said steel types. That's my
I don't know
bad.
how you did either.
I was thinking of some other thing. I was thinking of like Dragon or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it does help with dragons, of course. Same as like dark types, for example. Regardless, though, that is Incineroar. Obviously, our team is definitely building up a ground weakness. Luckily, we did start to patch that up with our.
Also, this is my favorite, by the way.
Oh yeah,
this is my favorite
this was Matt's
image.
favorite. I think mine was definitely the Milotic, but Matt's was definitely Incineroar. Next up on our wheel, we got Crustle. So Crustle's obviously really good for this team because of hazard stacking. Crustle has spikes. I don't know if that was added this gen or not, but I know it has them now. So it's obviously really good for us to just spike stack rosters because with one spike, a Melmetal can kill most mons.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really free. On top of also getting rocks, we can shell smash, so the lower speed becomes invalidated at that point. Great offensive typing too, to be honest. Bug Rock, pretty underrated in my opinion.
We can honestly use Body Press as well. That's a really solid a new addition for moves in this generation. So many Pokemon become a lot better just because of the inclusion of it. Sturdy is obviously going to be fantastic, allowing us to get off a free Shell Smash, which is incredible. One of the best moves in the game in terms of setup. It's another knockoff Mom, which is nice. And its coverage is pretty damn good too. So just be on the lookout for Crustle in both a supportive role and for a sweeping role.
Yes. Crustle definitely really well rounded out this build in my opinion. So I'm really glad to obviously have it here. Next up was finally our first ground check. We had Virizion. Now you can't really see it because it's pure white Virizion, but you'll be able to see it a lot better in the game. We promised though we did draft it.
Yes.
Last I checked, we did draft it. So Virizion obviously offers our first ground check, and while Virizion really isn't that phys def, it doesn't really matter just because offensively there's very few grounds that can actually beat it outside of things like Mamoswine. There's not really a lot in the format that actually does beat it for a ground type. Obviously, stuff like Gligar and Gliscor could wall it if they were in the game, but they're not. So, same as stuff like Landorus, they just aren't in the format right now. So, this does beat pretty much every single ground type that would be drafted. The speed is phenomenal, 108 base. We did really need a fast mon on the team because our fastest thing right now was the Milotic, which isn't really that impressive.
I will say that the speed is probably the most important thing for us outside of the fact that it's a ground, excuse me. And that's because we can outspeed those grounds that would be a problem for us. Mammal Spine, like you mentioned, close combat, Leaf Blade. Really good for us there. It gets synthesis for recovery, which is fantastic. It gets set up in Swords Dance, which can really help pressure teams. And I believe like Sacred Sword is a really useful move because it can bypass those stat boosts that might end up being a bit of a problem. People decide to set up on something like our Clefable or our Milotic if we're not running Haze or whatever the case may be. It pairs really well with our current roster. We have quite a few flying resists at this point in Melmetal and in Toxtricity, and Melmetal is just going to be laughing off any flying type attack as long as it's physical. So I think Virizion an actual incredible Pokemon for us this game.
Yes, I 100% agree. So next up on our round 8 and 9 wheel, we start to definitely look into a bit of our lower tier options because we realized that the upper tier Mon that we wanted on this team was probably not going to get sniped from us. Sadly though, our Psychic that we were looking at did get sniped, so we had to settle a bit. We were really looking at Sigilif this round. We figured it would definitely perfectly round out our defensiveness in the team and our offensiveness because we did miss out on Togekiss earlier for the flying type. So we had to settle. Our first Mon with this set is going to be, I just want to make sure, is Claydol. Claydol is our ground immunity on the team. That's not very good. Yeah,
it's a Pokemon.
It's here. This was not Matt and I's first choice. This was honestly not even my second choice or third, probably fourth or fifth. But it was not my first, second, or third choice. They all got taken. It was really depressing to watch the round 7 to 8 come back to us. It was really depressing.
It hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Everything we wanted went.
It is a ground type, though.
It
is a psychic type. It is a ground immunity. And something that's pretty good for it is it gets Trick Room, which can be very valuable for our Melmetal.
Yes.
Like Melmetal with Trick Room up is absolutely incredible. It's only got 34 speed, so having Claydol to support it, while at the same time having access to Rapid Spin is phenomenal. It has really good coverage. Like its coverage is fantastic. It's just it's only got 70 on its attack and special attack, which is very problematic.
Now, one thing I will add is that compared to everything still in the game, Claydol looks like a Mon that you could maybe draft. Like, if you're really desperate, you could maybe draft it. I wouldn't say you should, but you maybe could. You might be able to justify it this gen, which is a buff for Clefable, I guess, because last gen you just couldn't. So that's a thing.
Look, it's a edge quick resist, which is great.
What we needed, I guess.
It was exactly what we needed.
It did everything we needed, just not well. That's pretty much it.
The fact that we have this type of Claydol where it has this kind of texture makes me much more confident that we can use it well because I didn't even want to try using Claydol for this previous shiny.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to try Claydol either, but this makes me not want to try it slightly less.
That works.
Let's get into a Pokemon we actually did want. Avalugg. Avalugg definitely has the worst texture on the team, but I was too lazy to edit it because it was really hard to do it the first time. It is, however, probably one of the most important mons in the build, if I'm being honest, because it's a really nice physical switch into ice types, which a lot of ice type, not ice types, ground types, and it can definitely beat a lot of ground types. If we play a special ground type, we're kind of fucked, but we have Virizion for those, so it's whatever. It's also a really nice spinner, which we didn't really have removal beforehand. So again, it was a really important mon for the build, despite looking the ugliest. It was a really important mon.
It's really reliable too as a defensive check because it obviously gets recover. It has sturdy to take those hits. So if we want to run a heavy duty boots and sturdy set, then we can always guarantee take at least one hit, which is very important, especially for firing back off like an avalanche with our respectable attacks that are pretty actually good attacks out of 117.
Yeah.
We fire off insanely powerful body presses. It's just going to be a very tough mon for people to take down, especially in tandem with the rest of our bulk. Milotic, Clefable, this is going to be fantastic to pair with Avalugg. And even though this is another mon that's similar in terms of stat distribution to Melmetal, we have enough special bulk at this point to feel really comfortable with Avalugg as our pick.
Yeah, I think we have enough special bulk to feel comfortable with this pick. Unlike with Claydol, I think this is a mon that can actually be useful. So we'll see. Now we get into our last two picks, which are actually really good. I think our last two picks were kind of steals, to be honest.
They are.
First up, we have Goodra. This really didn't matter. We could have picked Goodra last round, but it was the wheel again. So we have Gudra. This mon may look like snot, but it's not. It's really good. It's really important. It's a nice special wall for Melmetal again. Really rounded out a lot of our cores, gave us a lot of resistances. It can cover grounds pretty well too, to be honest, with Surf and Power Whip. Basically everything that we really, really struggle with, we can handle now. So that's great.
Something great about Gudra is the coverage options. It's just fantastic. Obviously, we kind of wish it had a more reliable special grass attack other than like absorb, but and we wish it had recovery as well. Light Dew is a move, I guess, but
I guess.
we're not going to talk about that. But this thing, its special bulk is absolutely insane. And when we said before we have enough special bulk, we were really looking forward to drafting Gudra with this pick here, and we're really happy that we did end up getting it. It's probably one of the best dragon types we could have on our current roster. It lets us take the hits that Melmetal is really afraid of, and at least the special hits. And we just pairing it with our current fairy and steel type, it's just phenomenal. And the texture of this is fantastic. I also want to point out one last thing. You said it may look like snot, but it's snot, which is a great pun. So
Yeah,
well done, Aaron.
You
Well
had to
done.
repeat the bad pun.
I just had to.
All right. Well, now we get to the actual team MVP right here. Last
Mm-hmm.
one on the team. I told Matt. I said this since Matt and I were teaming that we were getting this one. Sadly, we could not afford Duosion. So for anyone who's a Duosion fan, we cannot afford to get it. It was really disheartening. We had to go with Claydol because otherwise we would lose to any ground type. However, we did at least be able to get this Mon, being Trapinch. Team
Yes.
MVP right here. Beautiful Pokemon. Beautiful Trapinch. Beautiful Wincon. Anyone who disses Trapinch, I'm blocking you from commenting on my videos. This thing is too valuable. It's too good of a Pokemon. You guys, by the end of the season, will be cheering for Trapinch because it won us our title by getting the last kill in the last game. I promise you, if we make finals, I will find a way to bring it.
In all seriousness, this thing is really, really good, especially for a tier 5.
Yeah.
Just having first impression while trapping in our opponents is amazing. If we're going up against a very, I guess, frail psychic or dark type or grass type or whatever, first impression is going to be a nuke. Earthquake is incredible. It's got enough bulk within a Violite to really take a hit or two. And Earthquake is still a 100 base power move coming from a 100 base power Pokemon that's Stab.
Yeah. This thing is not to be trifled with. It can hold in a Violet too, so that already makes it infinitely better than Flygon, which has similar attacks. It has the same attack stat. It already has really good priority, and it, again, isn't 4 times weak to Ice, like Flygon and Vibrava, so it already is infinitely better than those two. It can trap things, so it's, again, already infinitely better than its evolutions. This thing basically should have been the final evolution, is what I'm saying. And I stand fully by that. This thing is just so good. 10 speed really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you're going to just first impression plus 2 everything for a tier 5 pick. The fact that this thing did not get drafted and sniped from us is an absolute miracle because now everyone's going to have to run Shed Shell on their electric types because half of them don't even get U-turn this generation. So they're going to have to run Shed Shell or they're going to lose their electrics, which is great because that also really defensively helps out with Milotic, for example. So it's kind of a broken mon for tier 5. The fact we got it last round was insane, and we're going to be plowing some teams with this thing.
100%. You mentioned it. Just forcing that prep is absolutely key with something like this, especially if we don't even have to bring it very often, but just the threat of having it there and us putting in work with it when we do bring it, which we are going to put in work with it, is going to be a huge problem for our opponents and a big headache for them in prep.
Yeah, the fact that people have to prep so heavily for a tier 5 mon, there is genuinely no other tier 5 unless if it 6-0s a team that people will ever have to put in even close to as much prep for as Trapinch. Just because of the fact that you could automatically go into a match 5v6 because Trapinch picks off something. Well, you might be saying, Trapinch is the 5 team. You're wrong, because Trapinch will kill something guaranteed and then kill another mon just to make up for that. So it's really 5v4 now. So joke's on you. This mon is going to carry.
And even then, you're bringing your tier 1 mon, and we're going to have our tier 5 mon. We'll get a KO on that tier 1. We'll take it.
Yeah, whatever team has Zero Aura, I mean, if they don't run a Shed Shell, they kind of just lose it. And considering it's probably a top 3 mon in this format, that's kind of stupid to just lose your tier 1 like that. Same as stuff like Terrakion takes a fair bit. Cobalion takes a fair bit. Pretty much any ground weak tier 1 or 2 could probably get beaten by this thing within a Violate or even just a Band or any sort of frail second type. Like Espeon gets 100% KO'd by first impression. I know the hell it will get O-code by first impression. Any
What we're
Frail's
trying to
type
say,
that gets picked.
what we're trying to say, Aaron, is that they should be afraid.
Yes, they will be afraid. Not should,
Exactly.
they will be afraid. When this thing gets into the finals, and when we win our finals game because of it, they will all be screaming for Trapinch to be the trophy and the new logo money, because that's just what it is. It will be the champion of this league.
Yeah, no,
Trapinch
no
will
Cinderace.
carry
We
it-
want Trapinch as logo.
Trapinch will carry it on its back and in its mouth. It is that busted.
No.
All right.
All right.
Well,
So I
we've-
think that's long enough, right?
Yes, we've clearly drilled it in their heads. They should be terrified of this Pokemon. So if you guys
Exactly.
are enjoyed for our week 1 game, leave a like down below. We recorded that for my
That's gonna
channel,
be-
right?
Yes. So the way this is working is it's going to be alternating uploads. So next week, our week 1 battle will be going up on Aaron's channel. Week 2 will be going up on my channel, and we'll be alternating from there. So make sure you're subbed to both of us, and make sure you guys are actually in both of our servers because, pretty good stuff happens there. And
Yes.
make sure to follow the TBL and both of us on Twitter as well. Links for that will be down there. And make sure to check out the rest of the coaches too. We have some really, really talented players, and hopefully it's going to be a fantastic season.
So until then, we will see you guys in the next video.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.
I can't survive.